Dr. Velmora moved them to a larger conference room. The doctor wanted more space and more screens to display information. Daewon didn't mind. The medical bay had felt too small for the kind of conversation they were about to have. Captain Hyunwoo joined them through the holographic display, his image now life-sized and sitting at the table with them. The doctor had also called in Ji-won, the historian from the horizon's edge. Her face appeared on another display to Daewon's left. She looked tired, like she had just woken up from a nap, but she smiled at Daewon. "You need me to explain the atomic age again?" Ji-won asked. "If you don't mind," Daewon said. "I think the doctor needs the full context." A fourth figure appeared on another screen. This was Station Administrator Kurix, a tall, thin Manthar with gray skin and large black eyes. Kurix folded his long fingers together and watched everyone with a neutral expression. "I was informed there might be a quarantine situation," Kurix said in a deep, resonant voice. "I need to understand if this human vessel poses a risk to station safety." "That's what we're trying to determine," Dr. Velmora said. The doctor pulled up a holographic image of Daewon's skeletal scan, highlighting the areas where radiation had been detected. "This crew member contains radioactive materials. He claims this is normal for his species." "It is normal," Ji-won said firmly. "All humans carry these isotopes. It's part of our history." "Then please explain this history," Kurix said. "I am listening." Ji-won pulled up her own set of displays. Images began appearing in the air above the table. Daewon recognized them immediately. Mushroom clouds, destroyed cities, testing sites in deserts and on islands. In 1945, Ji-won began, humanity successfully created the first nuclear weapons. We immediately used them in a war. 2 cities were destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of people died instantly. Many more died slowly from radiation poisoning in the weeks and months that followed. Dr. Velmora made a soft clicking sound. The images showed the devastation clearly. Buildings flattened. Shadows burned into walls where people had been standing. You would think that after seeing such destruction, humans would never use these weapons again. Ji-won continued. But instead we entered what we called the Cold War. 2 major powers, along with several smaller nations, began building more and more nuclear weapons. Bigger ones, more powerful ones, enough to destroy the entire planet several times over. "Why?" Dr. Velmora asked. "Why would any species do this?" "Fear," Hyunwoo said quietly. "Each side was afraid the other would attack first, so they built more weapons to deter attack. It was called mutually assured destruction. If one side launched their weapons, the other side would launch theirs and everyone would die. The theory was that this fear would prevent anyone from actually using the weapons." "That is insane," Kurix said flatly. "Yes," Ji-won agreed. "It was, but it gets worse. To make sure their weapons worked, both sides needed to test them. So they started detonating nuclear bombs on Earth, in the atmosphere, underground, underwater, over and over again. The displays changed to show testing footage, bombs exploding in the desert, mushroom clouds rising into the sky, islands being vaporized. The images were old and grainy, but their power was undeniable. Between 1945 and 1996, Ji-won said, humans conducted at least 2,056 nuclear weapons tests. The actual number might be higher. Some tests were done in secret. The United States conducted over 1,000 tests. The Soviet Union conducted over 700. France, China, the United Kingdom, and other nations conducted dozens more. Dr. Velmora's antennae were completely flat against the doctor's head now. "You detonated over 2,000 nuclear weapons on your own planet?" "We did," Ji-won confirmed. "And every single one released radiation into the environment. The atmospheric tests were the worst. The explosions sent radioactive particles high into the air, where wind currents spread them across the entire globe. These particles eventually fell back to Earth as fallout." Daewon watched the doctor's reaction carefully. Dr. Velmora looked genuinely horrified. The administrator, Kurix, showed less emotion, but his dark eyes were fixed on the displays with intense focus. "The fallout contaminated everything," Ji-won continued. "Soil, water, plants, animals, it entered the food chain. When humans ate food grown in contaminated soil or drank contaminated water, the radioactive particles entered their bodies. Some isotopes like strontium-90 are chemically similar to calcium. The human body mistakes them for calcium and stores them in bone tissue. Where they remain," Dr. Velmora said softly. "Where they remain," Ji-won confirmed. The levels aren't high enough to cause radiation sickness in most cases, but they're there. Measurable, permanent. Every human born after 1945 carries this signature. We call it the bomb pulse. The conference room was silent for a moment. The displays continued to show images from the testing era. Soldiers watching explosions from trenches, scientists in protective suits measuring radiation levels, children being scanned with Geiger counters. Did your species understand what you were doing? Curix asked finally. Did you know you were contaminating your own planet? Yes, Hyunwoo said. Scientists warned about the dangers. They explained how radiation spreads. They predicted the environmental damage. They were mostly ignored. Why? Dr. Velmora demanded. Why would you ignore such warnings? Because the weapons were considered more important than the environment, Daewon said. Each nation wanted to prove they were strong. They wanted to intimidate their enemies. They wanted to develop better technology. The long-term consequences seemed less important than the immediate political and military advantages. There were protests, Jiwon added quickly. Many humans opposed the testing. There were movements, demonstrations, campaigns to stop it. Eventually, most nations signed treaties banning atmospheric testing. But by then, the damage was done. Dr. Velmora pulled up new data on the displays. I am looking at mortality statistics from Earth during this period. Cancer rates increased significantly. Thyroid problems, genetic mutations. How did your species survive this? Barely, Jiwon said. It was close. If the testing had continued for another few decades, the environmental damage might have been irreversible. But we stopped. We adapted. The human body is surprisingly resilient. Cancer rates eventually stabilized. Medical technology improved. We learned to treat radiation-related illnesses better. But the radiation remained in your bones, Dr. Velmora said. The radiation remained in our bones, Daewon agreed. It's our legacy, a permanent reminder of what we did to ourselves. Curix leaned forward slightly. Does this contamination affect your ability to live normally? To work, to reproduce? No, Hyunwoo said. The levels are too low to cause problems for most people. Some individuals might be more sensitive, but overall, modern humans live normal lives despite carrying these isotopes. We've adapted to it. Adapted to poison in your bones, Dr. Velmora said. The doctor's voice held a mixture of disbelief and something else. Maybe respect? Maybe horror? Daewon couldn't quite tell. We're good at adapting, Daewon said quietly. Sometimes too good. We adapt to things we should never have accepted in the first place. The displays faded away, leaving only the soft lighting of the conference room. Dr. Velmora sat very still, processing everything. Curix remained silent, his expression unreadable. Finally, Jiwon spoke again. The radiation in our bones is proof that we survived our own worst impulses. We poisoned our planet and we lived anyway. I don't know if that makes us incredibly strong or incredibly stupid. Probably both. Probably both, Daewon agreed. He looked at Dr. Velmora. So that's the story, Doctor. That's why there's radiation in my bones. That's why every human you scan will show the same results. It's not a medical emergency. It's just history. Dr. Velmora's antennae slowly rose back to their normal position. History, the doctor repeated. You carry your history in your bones. We do, Daewon said. Whether we want to or not. The medical scanner hummed softly as it passed over Daewon's body. He lay still on the examination table, staring at the ceiling of the medical bay. The ceiling was a soft blue color, probably meant to be calming. It didn't really work. Medical checkups always made him feel a bit uncomfortable, even the routine ones. Dr. Velmora moved around the table with precise movements. The Threen doctor had 4 arms, which made the examination process much faster than what Daewon was used to back on Earth. 2 arms operated the scanner, while the other 2 tapped at a holographic display that floated in the air. The doctor's compound eyes reflected the blue light from the screens. This is just standard procedure, Dr. Velmora said in a clicking musical voice. The translator implant in Daewon's ear converted the sounds into words he could understand. All crew members from visiting vessels must complete a full health evaluation before they can enter the station's civilian areas. I understand, Daewon replied. He had been through this before at other stations. It was boring but necessary. The Galactic Trade Union took health protocols very seriously. One sick crew member could spread disease across multiple worlds if they weren't careful. The scanner completed its pass and beeped softly. Dr. Velmora's antennae twitched as the doctor studied the readouts. Then the twitching stopped. The doctor became very still. Is something wrong? Day-Wan asked. Dr. Velmora didn't answer immediately. All four arms moved rapidly across the display, pulling up different screens and charts. The doctor's mandibles clicked together, and what Day-Wan had learned was a sign of confusion or concern. I need to run the scan again, Dr. Velmora said finally. Okay, Day-Wan said slowly. Did the machine malfunction or something? Perhaps. Please remain still. The scanner hummed to life again, making another slow pass over Day-Wan's body. This time, Dr. Velmora watched the displays with intense focus. When the scan finished, the doctor's antennae drooped slightly. The readings are the same. The doctor muttered, more to himself than to Day-Wan. This cannot be correct. Day-Wan sat up on the table. What can't be correct? What did you find? Dr. Velmora turned to face him fully. Your skeletal structure contains radioactive isotopes. Specifically, I am detecting strontium-90 and cesium-137 throughout your bone tissue. These are dangerous materials. You should be experiencing severe radiation poisoning, but your other readings appear normal. How long have you been exposed? Oh, Day-Wan said. He almost smiled but caught himself. The doctor looked genuinely worried. I'm not exposed to anything. Those isotopes are just there naturally. Naturally? Dr. Velmora's voice rose in pitch. Radiation in bone tissue is not natural for any species I have ever treated. You need immediate treatment. I must contact your captain and recommend quarantine procedures for your entire ship. If there has been a reactor leak, There's no reactor leak, Day-Wan interrupted gently. Doctor, I promise you everything is fine. This is completely normal for humans. Dr. Velmora stared at him with all those compound eyes. Normal? You are telling me that your species naturally contains radioactive materials in their bones? Well, not naturally exactly, Day-Wan admitted. It's complicated. It's kind of a long story. A long story? The doctor's mandibles clicked rapidly. You are contaminated with radioactive isotopes and you say it is a long story? I must insist on an explanation. I cannot allow you to leave this medical bay until I understand what I am seeing. Day-Wan sighed. He had been through this conversation a few times with alien doctors, but it never got easier to explain. Could I at least put my shirt back on? And maybe we could sit down somewhere? This really is going to take a while. Dr. Velmora hesitated, then gestured toward a small office attached to the medical bay. Very well, but I am also contacting your captain. This situation requires immediate attention. A few minutes later, Day-Wan sat in a chair across from Dr. Velmora's desk, fully dressed again. The doctor had indeed called Captain Hyun-woo, whose face now appeared on a holographic display floating above the desk. Hyun-woo looked concerned but not surprised. Day-Wan, what's going on? Hyun-woo asked. The doctor says you're radioactive. I'm fine, Captain, Day-Wan assured him. It's the usual situation. The doctor here isn't familiar with human biology. I am quite familiar with hundreds of species biology, Dr. Velmora said stiffly, but I have never encountered a species that carries radiation in their bones and considers it normal. Hyun-woo's expression shifted to understanding. Ah, right, Doctor, has Day-Wan explained about Earth's history? He has said it is a long story, Dr. Velmora replied. I am waiting for this story. Day-Wan leaned back in his chair. Okay. Doctor, what do you know about human history? Specifically, do you know anything about Earth's 20th century? Very little, the doctor admitted. Humans are a relatively new species to the galactic community. Most of us know only that you achieved space travel recently, and that your planet went through some kind of environmental crisis. That's one way to put it, Day-Wan said quietly. He took a breath. Doctor, about 300 years ago, humans discovered how to split atoms. Do you know what that means? Nuclear fission, Dr. Velmora said. Yes, many species have discovered this. It is a dangerous but useful technology. Right. Well, humans didn't just use it for power or medical purposes. We used it to make weapons, really powerful weapons, and then we tested those weapons on our own planet. Dr. Velmora's antennae stood straight up. You detonated nuclear weapons on your homeworld? Deliberately? Over 2,000 times, Day-Wan said. Between 1945 and 1996, various human nations conducted more than 2,000 nuclear weapons tests. Most of them were in the atmosphere or underground, but the radiation spread everywhere. It contaminated the soil, the water, the air, everything. The doctor was silent for a long moment. Your species poisoned your own planet. We did, Hyunwoo said from the display. It wasn't our proudest moment. Actually, it was a lot of not proud moments over several decades. But how did you survive? Dr. Velmora asked. Radiation contamination on a global scale should have caused mass extinction. A lot of people did die, Daewon said quietly. Cancer rates increased. There were birth defects. It was bad. But humans are adaptable. We're resilient. We survived it even though we probably shouldn't have. And the radiation in your bones? The doctor pressed. Everyone born after 1945 has it, Daewon explained. The radioactive particles got into the food chain. They became part of the environment. When humans eat food grown on Earth or drink water from Earth, we absorb trace amounts of these isotopes. They settle in our bones and stay there. It's not enough to make us sick anymore, but it's enough to show up on a really good medical scanner. Dr. Velmora sat back, all four arms hanging limply. This is the long story? Daewon smiled sadly. This is just the beginning of it, actually. Would you like to hear the rest? The conference room felt different now, heavier somehow. Dr. Velmora had been silent for several minutes studying the data displays with all four arms moving in slow, thoughtful patterns. Kurix had excused himself after saying he needed to file a report. That left Daewon. The two holographic displays showing Hyunwoo and Jiwon, and the increasingly troubled Threen doctor. Dr. Velmora finally looked up from the screens. I do not understand how your species survived. Global radiation contamination should have caused extinction. The mutation rates alone should have made reproduction nearly impossible. We got lucky, Hyunwoo said from his display, and we're tougher than we look. Luck and toughness do not explain this, Dr. Velmora insisted. I have been researching human biology while we talked. Your species has a remarkable healing capacity, yes, but this should not have been enough. There must be something else. You could ask Bo-Ra, Daewon suggested. She's our medical officer. She knows more about human adaptability than I do. I would very much like to speak with her, Dr. Velmora said immediately. Daewon sent a quick message through his communication implant. A few minutes later, a new holographic figure appeared in the conference room. Bo-Ra was in her early 40s with short black hair and the calm, steady manner of someone who had seen plenty of medical emergencies. She wore the standard blue uniform of a ship's medical officer. Captain says you need me to explain human biology? Bo-Ra asked, looking at Dr. Velmora. I need you to explain how humans survived global radiation poisoning, the doctor said bluntly. Bo-Ra nodded, unsurprised by the question. Right, the bomb pulse thing. It comes up sometimes with alien doctors. Okay, here's the simple version. Humans have extremely efficient DNA repair mechanisms. When radiation damages our cells, our bodies can fix most of the damage before it becomes permanent. Most species have DNA repair mechanisms, Dr. Velmora pointed out. Most species don't have repair mechanisms as aggressive as ours, Bo-Ra countered. Humans evolved on a planet with relatively high background radiation compared to many other worlds. Our sun produces a lot of UV radiation. Our planet's core generates radiation. We've always been exposed to more radiation than, say, the Threen homeworld, so our bodies got really good at dealing with it. Dr. Velmora pulled up a new set of data, but the levels from nuclear testing were far beyond natural background radiation. Absolutely, Bo-Ra agreed. And a lot of humans did die from it. Cancer rates spiked. There were genetic problems, but the humans who survived had the most efficient repair systems. They passed those genes to their children. Over several generations, the population adapted. We're essentially the descendants of the humans who could best tolerate radiation exposure. Natural selection, Jiwon added from her display. The testing period acted as a filter. The humans alive today are the ones whose ancestors survived. Daewon listened to this explanation with mixed feelings. He understood the science, but it still felt wrong somehow. Like they were making excuses for something inexcusable. Yes, humans had survived. Yes, their bodies had adapted. But should they have had to? Should any species poison its own planet and then celebrate surviving the consequences? What about other incidents? Dr. Velmora asked. Your history files mention other radiation accidents. Chernobyl, Fukushima. Nuclear reactor disasters, Bo-Ra confirmed. Chernobyl in 1986, Fukushima in 2011. Both released significant radiation into the environment. More people died. More land was contaminated. But again, humans adapted. We improved our reactor designs. We developed better safety protocols. We learned from the mistakes. You learned from the mistakes, Dr. Velmora repeated slowly. But you did not stop using nuclear technology. No, Bora said. We didn't because nuclear technology is also useful. Nuclear power plants provide clean energy without carbon emissions. Nuclear medicine saves lives. Cancer treatments, diagnostic imaging, and now nuclear propulsion systems for spacecraft. Dr. Velmora's antennae quivered. You use nuclear engines in your ships? This ship runs on a nuclear fusion reactor, Hyunwoo said cheerfully. It's completely safe, probably, almost certainly. We haven't had an accident yet. Most alien species consider human vessels dangerously overpowered, Jiwon added. Our ships use engines that other species wouldn't dare to operate near populated areas. The door to the conference room opened. A young human girl walked in, maybe 13 or 14 years old. She had long black hair tied back in a practical ponytail and wore casual station clothes. She looked around the room with curiosity. Sorry to interrupt, the girl said. I'm looking for Dr. Velmora. I need to pick up my vaccination records. Are you from the Horizon's Edge? The doctor asked. Yes, I'm Tae-hee. I'm traveling with my parents. We're headed to the Mars colonies. Dr. Velmora's mandibles clicked. You were born on Mars? Yep, Tae-hee said brightly. Mars Colony 7. My parents work in the terraforming department. And Mars Colony 7 uses nuclear reactors for power? The doctor asked carefully. Of course, Tae-hee said, as if this was obvious. All the Mars colonies do. Solar power isn't efficient enough yet, and we haven't finished building the orbital collectors, so we use fusion reactors. They're perfectly safe. Dr. Velmora looked at Daewon, then at Bora, then back at Tae-hee. Your species poisoned your homeworld with nuclear weapons. You had multiple reactor disasters. People died. The environment was contaminated. And your response was to build more nuclear facilities? On your colonies? Tae-hee blinked. Well, yeah. The old fission reactors were dangerous because the technology was primitive. Modern fusion reactors are completely different. We learned how to do it safely. You learned how to do it safely, Dr. Velmora said faintly. We had to, Tae-hee said with a shrug. If humans gave up on every dangerous technology that killed people, we'd never have discovered fire. Or boats, or airplanes, or space travel. Everything worth doing has risks. You just have to learn from your failures and do better next time. There was a long silence. Tae-hee looked around at all the adults staring at her. Did I say something wrong? No, Daewon said gently. You said something very human. Bora found Tae-hee's vaccination records and sent them to the girl's datapad. Tae-hee thanked the doctor and left, humming softly to herself. The door closed behind her. Dr. Velmora stood very still. All four arms hung limply at the doctor's sides. I do not know what to think about your species. That's fair, Hyunwoo said. We're not always sure what to think about ourselves. You weaponized atoms, the doctor said slowly. You poisoned your planet. Thousands died. Millions were affected. The entire biosphere was contaminated. And you continued. You built more weapons. You kept testing. Even after you knew the consequences. Even after you saw the death and suffering. And then, after all that, you decided to use nuclear technology for your colonies, for your ships, for medical treatment. You did not abandon it. You did not reject it. You embraced it. Yes, Bora said simply. Why? Dr. Velmora demanded. How can you trust technology that killed so many of your own people? Because technology isn't good or evil, Bora said. It's just a tool. Nuclear fission can power a city or destroy it. The same physics that makes bombs also makes medical scanners that detect cancer early enough to cure it. We can't uninvent nuclear technology. We can't forget what we learned. So we choose to use it carefully. We choose to do better. We contain contradictions, Daewon said quietly. We're capable of terrible destruction and amazing healing. Sometimes at the same time. Sometimes with the same tools. That's just what humans are. Dr. Velmora slowly lowered into a chair. The doctor's compound eyes reflected the soft lights of the displays. Your species survived your own worst nature. And then you decided to keep the tools that nearly destroyed you. I find this both horrifying and remarkable. Welcome to humanity, Jiwon said with a slight smile. We're complicated. You are insane, Dr. Velmora said. But the doctor's voice held something other than horror now. Maybe respect. Maybe fascination. Maybe fear. Probably all three. Daewon smiled sadly. Maybe, but we're still here. Still alive. Still moving forward. The radiation in our bones reminds us where we've been, but it doesn't stop us from going where we want to go. The Horizon's Edge was scheduled to depart in 3 hours. Daewon had finished all his pre-departure checks and was helping load the last supply containers when Dr. Velmora appeared at the cargo bay entrance. The Threen doctor looked different somehow. Less formal, more thoughtful. May I speak with you? Dr. Velmora asked. Of course, Daewon said, setting down the container he had been carrying. He gestured to a quiet corner of the cargo bay where they wouldn't be disturbed. They walked over together, their footsteps echoing on the metal floor. Through the bay's open doors, Daewon could see the station's interior stretching away in all directions. Ships being loaded and unloaded. Crews moving cargo. Life continuing as it always did. I wanted to apologize, Dr. Velmora said once they were away from the noise. When I first detected the radiation in your bones, I reacted with alarm. I assumed you were sick. I assumed there was danger. I did not consider that there might be a larger story behind the readings. You were doing your job, Daewon said, protecting the station. I don't blame you for being concerned. Perhaps, the doctor said, but I also wanted to thank you, and Captain Hyunwoo, and your historian Ji-won, for explaining your history so thoroughly. I have spent many hours since our conversation researching human civilization. What I learned has changed my perspective. Changed it how? Dr. Velmora's antennae moved in a pattern Daewon had learned meant the doctor was thinking carefully. I have treated thousands of patients from dozens of species. I have seen illness and injury in many forms, but I had never encountered a species that carries the evidence of its own survival in its very bones. Your people bear witness to your history in a way no other species does. You cannot escape what you are because what you are is written in your skeleton. That's one way to look at it, Daewon said. It is the only way to look at it, Dr. Velmora insisted. You told me your species poisoned its own planet. You showed me the evidence, the weapons tests, the contamination, the deaths. It should have been the end of humanity, but instead it became a beginning. You survived, you adapted, you learned, and now you travel the stars with that lesson literally inside you. We survived, Daewon agreed, but we also caused the problem in the first place. That's not something to be proud of. No, Dr. Velmora said, but surviving it is, and learning from it is, and carrying the memory of it is. Your species could have chosen to forget, to ignore the past, to pretend the contamination never happened. But you cannot do that. The radiation will not let you forget. Every medical scan reminds you. Every history lesson teaches the younger generation. You are forced to remember. A small voice interrupted them. Uncle Daewon. Daewon turned to see Young-soo, his nephew, walking into the cargo bay. The boy was 7 years old with bright, curious eyes and a smile that seemed permanently fixed on his face. He wore a child-sized station visitor badge and carried a data pad covered in colorful stickers. Hey, Young-soo, Daewon said warmly. What are you doing down here? Mom said I could come find you before we leave, Young-soo said. I wanted to show you my project. This is my nephew, Daewon explained to Dr. Velmora. Young-soo, this is Dr. Velmora. The doctor took care of me in the medical bay. Young-soo looked up at the Threen doctor with interest. You have 4 arms. That's so cool. Can you pick up 4 things at once? Dr. Velmora's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Yes, I can. What is your project, young one? I'm studying environmental engineering, Young-soo said proudly, holding up his data pad. Look, I'm learning about terraforming. When I grow up, I want to help make planets healthy. We learned about Earth's history in school, about how humans hurt the environment a long time ago. But now we're fixing it. Earth is getting better every year. The oceans are cleaner. The forests are growing back. And I want to help make other planets just as nice. Daewon felt something tighten in his chest. Young-soo was so full of hope, so confident in the future. He didn't carry the weight of guilt that older generations felt. He only saw the opportunity to make things better. Dr. Velmora leaned down slightly to examine Young-soo's data pad. You are studying how to heal planets? Yep, Young-soo said enthusiastically. We can't fix everything humans did wrong. The radiation is still there, but we can clean the water and air. We can help plants grow again. We can make sure the animals have good homes, And on new planets, we can do it right from the beginning. We can build cities that don't hurt the environment. We can use clean energy. We learned from our mistakes. You learned from your mistakes, Dr. Velmora repeated softly. That's what history is for, Young-Soo said matter-of-factly. To teach us what not to do next time. My teacher says humans made a lot of mistakes, but that's okay because we learned from them. Now we know better. Dae-won put a hand on his nephew's shoulder. Young-Soo, why don't you go find your mom? Tell her I'll be there in a few minutes to say goodbye before departure. Okay, Young-Soo said cheerfully. He waved at Dr. Velmora with his datapad. Nice to meet you, Doctor. I hope your planet is healthy. The boy ran off, his footsteps echoing through the cargo bay. Dae-won and Dr. Velmora watched him go. He is very optimistic, Dr. Velmora observed. He's young, Dae-won said. He doesn't remember Earth before the cleanup efforts started. He only knows the recovering version. To him, environmental healing is normal, expected. He thinks all problems can be solved with enough work and good intentions. Perhaps he is right, Dr. Velmora said. Maybe, Dae-won said. I hope so. That's what we're working toward. Making sure the next generation doesn't have to fix our mistakes. Making sure they can focus on building something better instead of repairing what we broke. Dr. Velmora was quiet for a moment. Then the doctor said, When I first learned about human history, I was horrified. I thought your species was reckless, dangerous, unstable, but after speaking with you, with your captain, with your historian, and now with your nephew, I understand better. You are not reckless. You are aware. You know exactly what you are capable of, both the terrible and the wonderful, and you choose to focus on the wonderful while never forgetting the terrible. We try, Dae-won said. We don't always succeed, but we try. That is all any species can do, Dr. Velmora said. Try, learn, improve. Your species carries its worst moment in its bones, but you also carry hope in your hearts. Young-Soo proves that. He knows the history. He understands the mistakes, but he looks forward with optimism anyway. That is remarkable. He's a good kid, Dae-won agreed. He is a human kid, Dr. Velmora said, which means he carries radiation in his bones just like you do. Just like every human does. But he does not let that define him. He lets it inform him. There is a difference. The cargo bay's loading was complete. Workers were sealing the containers and preparing for departure. Captain Hyun-woo's voice came over the ship's communication system, announcing final boarding for all crew and passengers. I should go, Dae-won said. Before you do, Dr. Velmora said quickly, I will be updating the medical database with information about human biology. I will note that the radiation in human bones is not a medical emergency. It is simply a fact of human existence. I will make sure other doctors know this so future humans are not alarmed by their own scans. Thank you, Dae-won said sincerely. That will save a lot of explanations. And I will add a note, Dr. Velmora continued, about what the radiation means. Not just medically, but historically. It is a mark of survival, a reminder of resilience, a permanent record that humans faced extinction and chose to live anyway. That is worth noting in any medical file. Dae-won smiled. You asked why there's radiation in our bones. I said it was a long story. It was indeed a long story, Dr. Velmora agreed. But now I understand it. The short answer is that you earned it through terrible choices. The long answer is that you learned from it through determination and hope. Both answers are true. Both answers matter. They walked together to the cargo bay exit. The horizon's edge was almost ready to depart. Through the windows, Dae-won could see Young-Soo standing with his mother, both of them waving at the cargo bay. Safe travels, Dae-won, Dr. Velmora said, and thank you for the lesson. I will not forget it. Neither will we, Dae-won said. That's kind of the point. He boarded the ship and made his way to the observation lounge where his family waited. Young-Soo ran up to him immediately, chattering about all the things he had seen on the station. His mother smiled tiredly but happily. Other crew members gathered around, preparing to watch the departure. Captain Hyun-woo's voice came over the speakers again. All personnel, we are departing in 60 seconds. Next stop, the Kepler colonies. Journey time 8 days. Dae-won stood by the window with Young-Soo beside him. As the horizon's edge pulled away from the station, the boy pressed his hands against the glass and looked out at the stars. Uncle Dae-won, Young-Soo said, do you think we'll really be able to fix everything? All the problems humans caused? Dae-won thought about Dr. Velmora's words, about the radiation in his bones, about the history they all carried. About the future Youngsu would help build. I think we'll try, Daewon said finally. We'll make mistakes along the way. We'll have setbacks, but we'll keep trying. The conference room had emptied hours ago. Dr. Velmora had excused everyone, saying the medical evaluation was complete, and there was no quarantine risk. Daewon had returned to his quarters on the horizon's edge, expecting to rest before the ship departed. But Captain Hyunwoo had called him to the station's observation deck instead. Daewon found his captain standing by the massive windows that looked out over the trade world below. The planet was beautiful, covered in blue oceans and green continents. 3 moons hung in the black sky above it. Dozens of ships moved in orbit, coming and going from the station. Couldn't sleep? Daewon asked, walking up beside Hyunwoo. Kept thinking about the conversation with Dr. Velmora, Hyunwoo said, about how horrified the doctor was. Made me wonder how other species see us. Probably the same way, Daewon said. We're the species that poisoned our own planet and survived anyway. That's not exactly a normal origin story for a spacefaring civilization. No, Hyunwoo agreed. It's not. They stood in silence for a while, watching the ships move through space. Daewon recognized most of the designs. 3 medical vessels with their distinctive red markings, Manthar trade ships long and elegant, Avarian diplomatic cruisers with their solar sail arrays, and a few human ships too, smaller than most of the others but faster and more heavily powered. Did you ever read the full Galactic Council reports about humanity? Hyunwoo asked suddenly. Some of them, Daewon said. The public ones anyway, why? I accessed some of the classified ones, Hyunwoo admitted. Captain's privilege. There's a lot we're not usually told about how the galaxy views us. Bad things, mixed things, Hyunwoo said. Some species admire us. They see our survival as proof of resilience, but a lot of species are afraid of us. Not because we're aggressive or violent particularly, because we survived something that should have destroyed us, because we did it to ourselves and then just kept going. Daewon absorbed this. He had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed still felt strange. What exactly did the report say? Dr. Velmora is researching human history right now, Hyunwoo said instead of answering directly. I got a notification from the station's data network. The doctor has accessed over 300 files about Earth in the last 2 hours. Medical databases, historical archives, xenobiology studies, everything available about human civilization. Looking for answers, Daewon said. Or looking for reassurance, Hyunwoo suggested. The doctor is trying to understand if we're dangerous. Footsteps echoed across the observation deck. Both men turned to see Subin approaching. She was the Horizon's Edge Alien Relations Officer, responsible for managing interactions with non-human species. She looked tired but alert. Captain, we have a visitor, Subin said. Counselor Ethrandis has requested to speak with you, and specifically with Daewon, the Avarian counselor. Hyunwoo asked, surprised. What does he want? He didn't say, just that it's important and concerns humanity's status in the galactic community. Send him up, Hyunwoo decided. A few minutes later, Counselor Ethrandis stepped onto the observation deck. The Avarian was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large eyes that seemed to see everything. He wore formal robes in deep purple, marking his status as a diplomatic official. His movements were graceful, almost floating. Captain Hyunwoo, Ethrandis said, his voice soft and musical. Thank you for seeing me on short notice. And you must be Daewon, the human who caused such concern in the medical bay. That's me, Daewon said. I didn't mean to cause problems. You caused no problems, Ethrandis assured him. You merely revealed information that many find fascinating. Dr. Velmora contacted me and shared the conversation about human history. I hope you don't mind. I found it most enlightening. What did you want to discuss, Counselor? Hyunwoo asked carefully. Ethrandis walked to the window, looking out at the stars. I wanted to provide context that Dr. Velmora could not. Context about how the Galactic Council views humanity. We're controversial, Daewon said. We know that. Controversial is an understatement, Ethrandis said gently. You are unique. In the entire known galaxy, across thousands of worlds and hundreds of spacefaring species, humans are the only civilization that survived a self-inflicted mass contamination event. The only one? Subin spoke up. What do you mean, the only one? Other species have discovered nuclear technology, Ethrandis explained. Many species have had accidents. Reactor failures, Laboratory incidents. Small disasters. But humans are the only species to deliberately detonate nuclear weapons on their own planet, repeatedly for decades, and survive the consequences. What happened to the others? Day One asked quietly. They died, Etherandus said simply. Species that poison their own biosphere do not recover. The environmental damage leads to ecosystem collapse. Food chains break down. Populations cannot sustain themselves. Within a few generations, extinction follows. It is one of the most common great filters that prevent species from reaching the stars. Hyunwoo leaned against the window. But we survived. You survived, Etherandus confirmed. Against all probability. Against all historical precedent. Your species contaminated your planet with radiation, and somehow adapted fast enough to avoid extinction. From a xenobiological perspective, it should not have been possible, yet here you are. So the Galactic Council thinks we're freaks, Day One said. The Galactic Council thinks you are remarkable, Etherandus corrected. Also terrifying. Also possibly unstable. Opinions vary widely. There have been 17 separate debates about humanity's membership status since you joined the galactic community 20 years ago. Debates about what exactly? Subin asked. About whether humans should be allowed unrestricted access to all sectors, Etherandus said. About whether human vessels should be permitted to dock at certain stations. About whether human technology standards are safe for others. Some counselors argue that any species willing to poison its own planet cannot be trusted. Others argue that any species tough enough to survive such poisoning should be respected and welcomed. What do you think? Hyunwoo asked. Etherandus turned to face them. His large eyes reflected the starlight from the window. I think humans are the universe's way of reminding us that life is more resilient than we believe. You should have died. Every calculation, every model, every historical precedent says you should have gone extinct. But you adapted. You survived. You learned. And now you travel the stars with radiation still in your bones, carrying your mistakes with you as a permanent reminder. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Daewon asked. It is a human thing, Etherandus said, and that makes it unique. The radiation in your bones is not just a medical curiosity. It is proof that your species faces its own worst nature and continues anyway. That is either incredibly brave or incredibly reckless. Perhaps both. Definitely both, Hyunwoo muttered. Etherandus smiled slightly. I came here to tell you this because I believe you should understand your position in the galaxy. Many species watch humans with concern. They see your nuclear-powered ships and wonder if you truly learned from your mistakes. They see your willingness to take risks and wonder if you will endanger others. They see your rapid expansion and wonder if you are safe neighbors. But you don't think that, Subin said. It wasn't a question. I think humans carry their history with them, Etherandus said. Literally in their bones. You cannot forget what you did because the evidence is part of your body. That makes you more careful than species who can forget their mistakes. You are marked by your past. That mark makes you humble, cautious, aware of consequences. Some of us anyway, Daewon said. Enough of you, Etherandus replied. The fact that you worry about repeating history means you are unlikely to repeat it. The species we should fear are the ones who believe they are incapable of making terrible mistakes. Humans know exactly what they are capable of. That self-awareness is valuable. The counselor moved toward the exit, then paused. Dr. Villamora will not require quarantine for your vessel. The station administrator has approved your departure, but I suspect the doctor will be thinking about this conversation for a long time, as will I. After Etherandus left, the three humans stood quietly on the observation deck. The trade world continued turning below them. Ships continued moving through space. Everything looked the same as before, but something felt different. Every atom in our bodies is a reminder, Daewon said softly, and a warning, to us or to others. Subin asked. Both, Hyunwoo said. Definitely both.